Some places whisper when the world falls silent. Some voices call your name when no one's there to answer. Tonight, we step beyond the edge of reason, into two tales that prove the dead never stay quiet. In one, a forest that hungers for your voice. In another, a music box that plays the tune of the damned. These are not just stories, they are warnings. So turn off the lights, lock your doors, and don't look behind you. Because once the whispers start, they never stop. Story 1. I remember the first time I heard the whispers. It was the night my brother disappeared. They said no one should ever walk into Blackthorn Forest after midnight. The villagers warned of strange voices, the kind that didn't belong to any living soul. But that night, when I heard my brother's voice calling from the darkness, I didn't think twice. I grabbed a flashlight, ignored the trembling in my hands, and stepped into the forest that had already taken too many lives. The air inside Blackthorn was different. Thick, heavy, almost suffocating. The trees leaned inward, their twisted branches arching like claws. My flashlight flickered once, twice, and the moment the beam steadied, I saw footprints, bare footprints. They were fresh and half filled with dark water from the earlier rain. I followed them deeper, calling out, "Ethan! It's me, Lily. Where are you?" No response, only the forest answering back. A long, hollow whisper that slid between the trees, repeating my words in a low, trembling voice. "Where are you?" My chest tightened. It wasn't an echo. It came from the left, then the right, then behind me. I turned around fast, the beam of my light slicing through the mist. Nothing, only fog moving like smoke around the trunks. I wanted to run, but then I heard it again, my brother's voice, faint and shaky. "Lily, help me." That was all I needed. I started walking faster, the mud sucking at my shoes. The forest floor was uneven, roots coiled like veins beneath my feet. I could feel something watching me. The deeper I went, the quieter everything became. No crickets. No owls, only those whispers that seemed to know my name. After 10 minutes of walking, I reached a clearing. The moonlight spilled across it, pale and cold, illuminating a small wooden cabin I had never seen before. Its roof sagged, and ivy crawled up the sides like veins on old skin. My brother's voice came again, louder this time from inside. "Lily, please." I pushed the door open. It creaked slowly, revealing the smell of rot and wet earth. My flashlight caught dust floating in the air like tiny ghosts. There was furniture inside, a table, a chair, and something on the floor. It was a tape recorder. I stared at it for a long second before kneeling down and pressing play. A low static hissed, followed by a soft voice, my brother's voice. "Lily, if you find this, run. Don't believe anything you hear. They sound like me, but they're not. They're not me." The recording cut off with a sharp click. I froze. The whispers outside started again, but this time they weren't far away. They were right outside the cabin. I turned off my flashlight and held my breath. The door slowly creaked open behind me, and through the darkness, I heard it again, Ethan's voice. "Lily, come home." But it was wrong. Too flat, too calm, like someone imitating him. I backed away toward the corner of the cabin, my heart hammering in my ears. The door opened wider, and a figure stepped inside. It looked like Ethan, same height, same messy brown hair, but his skin was pale, like he'd been drained of all color. His eyes weren't right, completely black. He tilted his head at me and smiled. "You shouldn't have come here." I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. He took a slow step toward me, bare feet pressing into the dirt floor, leaving wet prints behind. "Do you know what happens to those who follow the whispers?" he asked softly. I shook my head, trembling. "They stay," he whispered, "forever." He lunged forward. I swung the flashlight instinctively, hitting him across the face. The light burst out, flickered wildly, and in that flash, I saw his skin ripple, as if hundreds of faces were shifting beneath it. I ran, out the cabin, through the clearing, into the forest. The whispers rose into screams now, some calling my name, others laughing, crying, pleading. The trees seemed to move, their branches reaching for me. I didn't stop until I saw the faint orange glow of my car's hazard lights through the trees. When I burst out of the forest, gasping, the first rays of dawn were breaking. My clothes were torn, my legs covered in scratches, but I was alive. I drove home shaking, heart pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. When I reached my driveway, I saw something that made the blood drain from my face. Ethan's shoes, sitting neatly by the porch. I hadn't seen those since the night he vanished. With trembling hands, I picked them up. Mud fell off in chunks. Something slipped out from one of them, a folded piece of paper. I unfolded it. My brother's handwriting. "Don't listen to them. If they call your name, never answer." My phone buzzed suddenly in my pocket. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. "Hello." Static. Then, a soft voice that sent ice through my veins. "Lily, it's me. Please come back. You left me there." It was Ethan, or something pretending to be him. The line went dead. For weeks after that night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd hear the forest. Those whispers, that voice. Sometimes, I'd wake up and find muddy footprints leading from the front door to my bed. I tried to tell myself it was all in my head, that maybe trauma was playing tricks on me. Until last night. I woke to the sound of my window opening. A cold wind blew in, carrying with it the faint, unmistakable scent of wet earth and pine. Then came the whisper, so close it felt like it was inside my ear. "Lily." I froze, slowly turned my head toward the window. And there he was, Ethan, standing outside in the moonlight, smiling, his skin pale, his eyes black. He raised a hand and pointed toward the forest in the distance. "Come home," he whispered. The whispering began again from the trees, soft at first, then louder, overlapping voices, chanting my name over and over, until it filled my entire room. I covered my ears and screamed. And then, silence. When I opened my eyes, he was gone. The window was closed. But something caught my attention. On the floor by my bed, muddy footprints, fresh ones, leading toward the door. I followed them slowly, my pulse thudding like thunder. They stopped at the front door, and there, pinned to it, was another note. It read, "Once they whisper your name, they never stop." That's when I realized the truth. It wasn't the forest that whispered first. It was me. Because when I called Ethan's name that night, when I answered the voices, I invited them in. And now, every night at midnight, I hear the forest calling again. The voices are getting louder, closer. I've stopped sleeping, stopped eating, because I know what happens next. They'll whisper one last time. And when I finally answer again, I'll never come back. Story 2. Don't answer them, no matter what they say. That was the last thing my father told me before he went into Blackthorn Forest, and never came out. That was 10 years ago. The forest still stands behind our house, tall and endless, the kind of place where the wind never seems to blow the same way twice. Everyone in town knows the stories about the whispers that call your name, the lights that move without a source, the shadows that follow you home. But I didn't believe any of it, not until last month when I heard my father's voice again. It started one quiet night, just after midnight. I was sitting by my bedroom window, scrolling through my phone, when I heard it, a faint voice coming from the forest. It was low, trembling, and unmistakably familiar. Ryan. I froze. My name, drawn out like a sigh. I told myself it was the wind, or maybe my imagination, but then it came again, clearer this time. Ryan, come here. I dropped my phone. The sound wasn't coming from far away. It was just beyond the tree line. I tried to ignore it. I turned on the TV, turned up the volume, but even over the noise, I could still hear it. The voice of a man I hadn't seen since I was 12 years old. By 1 a.m., I was standing at the back door, flashlight in hand, staring at the darkness between the trees. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. I kept remembering how my father had disappeared, how the police found only his boots covered in mud, sitting neatly by the forest path. I knew I shouldn't go, but what if he was alive? What if somehow he'd found his way back? I stepped outside. The cold hit me first, sharp, biting, unnatural for a summer night. The moment I crossed the fence line, it was like stepping into another world. The air was thicker, still. Even the crickets were silent. "Dad?" I called out. My voice sounded too loud, bouncing between the trees. No answer. I took a few steps deeper, the beam of my flashlight slicing through the mist. My boots squelched in the damp soil. The smell of moss and rot filled my nose. I kept walking until I reached the old logging path, the one my father used to take when he'd go hunting. That's when I heard it again. "Ryan, over here." I spun around. The voice came from somewhere behind me now. "Dad." No reply, just soft laughter, distant but close enough to feel it crawl under my skin. I turned the flashlight toward the sound and froze. Someone was standing between the trees. The beam barely reached them, but I could see the outline of a man, tall, broad shoulders, motionless. The mist swirled around him like smoke. "Dad?" I whispered. He didn't move, didn't answer, just stood there. Then, very slowly, he lifted his arm and pointed deeper into the forest. Every instinct told me to turn back, but my feet moved on their own. I followed. The path narrowed, the trees crowding closer. I could feel branches brush against my shoulders. My flashlight flickered, dimmed, then brightened again. The further I went, the colder it became. After what felt like forever, I reached a small clearing, and there, half buried under a tree, was something metallic. I brushed off the dirt. It was an old lantern, the same kind my father used to carry. Inside it, something glinted, a gold ring, his wedding band. My heart dropped. I knew it instantly. The engraving inside, J+M, always. That's when I heard the whisper again, right behind my ear. "Ryan." I turned around so fast I almost fell. The flashlight beam caught something moving, a blur, slipping between the trees. "Dad!" I shouted. The whisper came again, but this time there were more voices. Not one, dozens, all whispering at once, overlapping. My name, over and over. "Ryan, Ryan, Ryan." The air vibrated with them. I dropped the flashlight, and in the brief moment it hit the ground, I saw shapes, pale faces peeking between the branches, watching me. I ran. I don't remember how long I ran, maybe minutes, maybe hours. The forest didn't look the same anymore. Paths twisted in ways that shouldn't exist. Trees shifted when I wasn't looking. Every direction looked wrong. Then I saw light ahead, a faint yellow glow. I stumbled toward it, breathless, heart pounding, and found myself standing in front of a small wooden cabin. It shouldn't have been there. It was old, sagging, with a single candle burning in the window. I pushed the door open, half expecting it to vanish, but it didn't. Inside was a single chair, a wooden table, and a tape recorder. The candle flickered as I picked it up. It was already playing. Static. Then, my father's voice. "Ryan, if you found this, don't believe them. The forest copies voices, faces. It learns what you love. That's how it keeps you here. Don't listen to me. Don't follow me. Don't..." The recording cut off with a sharp click. I froze. Outside, the whispers started again, louder than before, hundreds of them. They were right outside the cabin. I turned off the candle and crouched behind the table, covering my mouth. The door creaked open. Footsteps, slow, wet. Then a shadow fell across the floor. Ryan. The voice was exactly my father's, but now, hearing it that close, I could tell it wasn't him. Something stepped inside. I could see its outline through the faint moonlight, the shape of a man, but wrong, too tall, too thin. Its head tilted at an unnatural angle, bones cracking with the motion. I stayed perfectly still. It sniffed the air, like it could smell me. Then it whispered again, softer this time, "Come home, son." When I didn't move, it began to laugh, low, guttural, distorted. Then it lunged. I ran for my life. The cabin door splintered behind me as I bolted into the woods. The thing's footsteps thundered after me, but I didn't look back. I ran until my legs gave out and the whispers faded into the distance. By the time I saw the faint lights of town, dawn was breaking. I collapsed on the side of the road. When I finally got home, my mother was waiting on the porch, pale, eyes wide. "Ryan," she said in a trembling voice, "why did you go into the forest?" I couldn't speak. I just shook my head. She handed me something. It was my father's wedding ring. "I found this outside your room last night," she whispered, and there was mud on the floor. My blood ran cold. I went to my room, shut the door, and tried to convince myself it was all in my head. But that night, when the clock struck midnight, I heard it again. Soft, familiar. "Ryan." I froze. It was coming from inside the house. I picked up my flashlight, hand shaking, and followed the sound. It led me down the hallway to my parents' room, the one that had been locked since my father vanished. The door was slightly open. I pushed it. The flashlight beam fell across the floor, muddy footprints, leading straight to the closet. The whisper came again, louder this time. "Ryan, it's me." I swallowed hard and pulled the closet door open. Empty. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. "Hello." Static. Then, my own voice. "Ryan, come back to the forest." The call ended. The phone slipped from my hand, and in the reflection of the dark screen, I saw it. A figure standing behind me. Smiling, covered in mud, wearing my father's ring, and whispering my name. The end.